food prices are up significantly. And as someone whose job is primarily within the food space, I wanted to share with you the best tips that I use in order to keep my grocery budget within $30 to $50, less than the average budget. To start off, these first few hacks, I'm just going to list them without any or much explanation, as they're likely to be things that you've heard of before. But just in case you haven't, or maybe you're new to all of this, I wanted to make sure you are aware of some fundamentals that shouldn't be looked at as hacks, but more as must do's. I'm also just realizing I didn't have the microphone connected, so not 100% sure you heard anything I said. First and foremost, create a budget. If you're not doing this or you don't know how, start somewhere like Canva that has free budget spreadsheets that you could print out and go straight from there. Make a grocery list. If it's not on the list, it's not part of the order. No one cares that it's on sale. Wait. Before making a grocery list, there are some things you actually should consider before even getting there. Shop your pantry before making a grocery list. I like to take pictures and then go sit down and go from there. Learn to utilize leftovers better. Sandwiches, burritos, soups, casseroles, all great ways to utilize your leftovers. Don't go to the grocery store without looking at the sales flyer first. I have no idea why I'm pointing that way. If black beans are on sale, black beans are going to be on the grocery list. If cauliflower is on sale, guess what? It's on the grocery list. So those are the 5 key hacks to smart budgeting and immediate savings. So if you don't do these, then please start. Now, let's get into the deep end. Choose a solid grocery store. Listen, convenience is expensive. Going further sometimes makes more sense. Along with that, sometimes going to different stores to pick up particulars is cheaper than shopping at one set spot. Aldi is like one of my favorite, but outside of that, you got grocery outlets you can go to, bulk stores like Costco. And this last one, while everyone can't just go in there, if you have a business, typically you could find your way in there and get some really big savings. And that would be like a restaurant supply store. Whatever you do, don't shop on an empty stomach. The brain is the most easily convinced organ in the body. It's like your stomach is going to cry, your brain is going to say, okay, and then it's going to tell your hand to pick up everything that you want and not what you actually need. So then the heart is like, darn, we got so close to sticking to the budget. And then the eyes, it's like, don't blame me. I was just doing my job. Know your store and be kind to the staff. The less time you spend browsing, the less likely you are to impulse buy. The staff, they're people too, or they're shoppers too. Someone was actually kind enough to tell me, wait until next week and this entire thing is going to go on sale, 50% off. It saved me like $3. So that deserved a high five. What's your name? And Maria, you are my favorite person now. We got to come up with nicknames for each other. Always pay attention to the register when it's ringing you up, or even if you're doing it on your own. Now that they have those like self-checkout kiosks. This is the best way to address any issues as they come up. An alternative to this can be either sitting in the store or sitting in the parking lot in your car while checking the receipt. It happens all the time. Items get scanned twice, or an item's not marked down properly. And these things can make a giant impact on your grocery budget. I promise this is no time to be lazy. You work really hard for your money. Make sure you're spending it wisely. Keep a list of stock prices on your phone for commonly bought items. This always keeps me from overspending on something. You know, so like if prices are up on apples, I'm gonna go get pears. If it's up on mangoes, I'm gonna switch over to cantaloupe for this week. We often will shed 40 to 70 cents here and there on items and justify it to ourselves that it's just one item, until we're at the register and now we're $6 over our budget. And with a surprised look, we say, it's just 1 week. Understand a single item price versus its bulk price. So 10 for $10, no. just buy one. No one needs 10. But if you ended up only buying one, you would have noticed it was just $1.03. Generic items are usually cheaper, and they're either made in the same factory or they're purchased from the name brand and then marked down and sold in some new name. So I won't say buy generic, but I will say, what's that saying about if it looks like a duck and acts like a duck and quacks like a duck? Meal prep or become a creature of habit. Meal prep is great. It requires making a calendar and planning out what you're gonna have for each day that week. The creature of habit is, I guess what you could say, is more of the minimalist approach. Eating the same things day in and day out. And yes, this might seem boring, but to speak on this, I take this approach with my clothing, which is why you see me wear black shirts all the time. It just makes this part of my life on autopilot, and it feels so good. Collecting recipes in some kind of organizer to refer back to. This strategy helps in multiple ways, but I'd like to go over one of the biggest ways it actually helps me. I've had questions before saying something like, Sir Nardness, I see you used half an onion for this recipe. How do you ensure use of Mr. Onion later and let it not go to waste? Well, it was worded, something like that. I'm not gonna, the nardness was a bit much. I just choose another recipe that utilizes an onion later in the week. I do that with onions and similar ingredients for the recipe that I chose up front. The more meals you have in your arsenal, the easier it will become to utilize things that are already within your pantry. This also takes the stress out of always trying to figure out what it is you're going to have. This way, you can make sure new information kind of just comes to you. Maybe from like a YouTuber you watch or something. Have you tried using a grocery app? Getting ready, starting your car, driving, using gas. These all contribute to the big three. Maybe you can see three like that better. Time, money, and stress. Whether you know it or not, all these things are playing factors into your time, money, and stress levels. And this can all be whisked away, no pun intended, by using an app. Choosing whole food versus packaged food. I thought this one was like a no-brainer until I started reading comments that talked about, switching over to more of a plant-based diet being more expensive. And well, you're right, but only if you're talking about eating food that's behind different grades of plastic. But if you're talking about cooking from scratch, while some foods are, yes, still behind plastic, like tofu, for example, a good majority of the foods are not, like cauliflower, for example. Not to mention the ingredients listed behind packaged foods not only beat up on your wallet, they beat up on your gut pretty good too. Speaking of cooking from scratch, prep from scratch. So I want you to check out this container of already diced pineapples. If you didn't know better, this could look like a reasonable price. Well, that is until you go and look at the price of a whole pineapple. I mean, even if you don't know how to cut a pineapple, that price is worth grabbing it off the shelf and figuring it out. Use your freezer to make better choices. Check this out. When you hear, I get my full serving of fresh food or veggies every morning, your mind most likely thinks I'm talking about this right off the counter. But nope, I'm actually talking about this right from my freezer. Frozen fruit and veggies are often cheaper than fresh. They're also frozen in its peak condition. So don't overlook these, or mixed veggies, for example. Buy dried instead of buying canned. There is about 4 to 5 cans in a dried bag of beans. And while cans last forever, so does the dry stuff. This one might sound crazy, but you don't need 3 meals a day. Now, I'm not advocating for anything unhealthy, just saying you can listen to your body here. For me, I found eating a good breakfast and dinner is all I need. For lunch, I'll sometimes just have a snack, a handful of peanuts or almonds or cashews, along with like kiwi or some diced pineapple. Also, many folks kind of already do this with some kind of fasting. It doesn't have to be a holiday or some special event or even religion. Fasting is just a really great way to revitalize the body and detox. You could think of it as like an oil change for humans. That sounded weird, but it's true. Pick a month each year and eat exclusively from your pantry. Just about spring or fall, I would say. You can time this up with like falling back or springing forward. You know, when the clocks change, if you didn't get what I was saying. It feels refreshing, like a reset, for example, and it's clean, but ultimately it's a whole month of saving on your budget. All right, so these last few things aren't for everyone, but they certainly hold value and can save you some big dollars. Start riding a bike to the grocery store. This tip is for the minimalists and efficiency seekers. All you have is your backpack and your ability to play Tetris. The snacks, the sodas, the extras, they just can't come home with you. Just the essentials. Garden if you can. Growing your own food is beneficial as it ensures fresher and more nutritious food while ultimately reducing your grocery cost. But what are the other benefits? We minimize our environmental impact. We cut down on packaging and transportation emissions, along with all the other activity that goes on at the farms. Not that the activity is bad, but here you know what you're biting into because you're farming it yourself. If you've never gardened, it is stress relieving and extremely rewarding. And it's not only looked at as a great hobby, it's also a very useful trade. Start small. Do like a herb garden in the window. Listen, I'm sharing all these tips because you're important to me. You're important to this world. We won't be able to change everything, but the things we can control, ourselves, our actions, our interactions, we can make an impact. It's similar to saving money. If all of us are just doing a little, it's making a big change because it adds up. Don't forget to check out more of my videos here for more inspiration. And until next time, believe in good. Peace.